Okay, take a look at this. What you're seeing is an artifact that could totally rewrite our timeline of technology. Seriously, it's a 2,000-year-old mystery pulled right out of the desert, and it suggests that our ancestors understood electricity long, long before the history books ever gave them credit for it.
And that right there is the big question, isn't it? If this little object is what it looks like it is, then who, 2,000 years ago, needed a source of electricity? And maybe more importantly, what in the world were they using it for? So let's rewind. Our story starts back in 1938. A team of archaeologists is working near the ancient city of Ctesiphon, not far from modern-day Baghdad. And they dig up this small, kind of unassuming clay jar. At first glance, it just looks like another piece of pottery from a long-gone empire. Nothing special. And what's really wild is how close we came to never knowing its secret. After they found it in '38, the jar got shipped off to a museum where it just sat in a basement, completely overlooked for years. It was just another pot. But then 2 years later, an archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig saw something that everyone else had totally missed. Let's really break down what he saw. The parts themselves are simple, but they're put together in a very specific way. You've got the clay pot, and inside that, there's a cylinder made from a rolled-up sheet of copper. And then, inside that, there's an iron rod, held right in the middle. The whole thing is capped at the top with asphalt to seal it and hold everything in place. And get this, no carvings, no writing, nothing. This thing wasn't built to be looked at, it was built to do something.
So this purely functional design is what led Koenig to a pretty radical idea. One that would turn this dusty old artifact into a genuine scientific puzzle. He started to suspect this wasn't just a jar, it was some kind of machine. And this was his light bulb moment. He recognized the combination. Two different metals, copper and iron, separated but sealed together. He knew that this specific arrangement, if you just added an acidic liquid, could create a chemical reaction. He realized, wait a minute, this isn't about art, this is about electrochemistry. Now for decades, Koenig's idea was pretty much dismissed. People thought it was science fiction. But then in the 1970s, some scientists decided, you know what, let's actually put this to the test. The process was pretty simple. They built an exact replica, they filled it with a basic acid like vinegar or even grape juice, both of which were common in the ancient world, and then they hooked up a device to see if it produced any electricity at all.
The result? Well, it was absolutely astonishing. The replica produced a steady, measurable current of about 1 volt of electricity. Now, that's not a lot, but it was undeniable. This 2,000-year-old design actually worked. It was a battery. Suddenly, the theory wasn't fiction anymore. It was fact.
So, okay, proving it could work was one thing. But that just leads to the next big question. Why? Why would an ancient civilization need a low-voltage power source? I mean, this discovery just blew the doors open on a whole new set of possibilities. Two main theories have really taken the lead. The first one is electroplating, the idea that they use the electrical current to apply these super thin layers of gold or silver onto other objects. And that could explain some of the incredibly fine metalwork we see on other artifacts from that time. The second theory is medical. Some ancient texts talk about priests using metal rods to deliver a kind of divine energy for healing. A 1-volt shock isn't going to hurt you, but you can definitely feel it. It could have been used for pain relief, almost like a primitive form of TENS therapy today. And then, just when you think you're getting a handle on the mystery, it gets even deeper. Because it turns out it wasn't just one jar. As archaeologists started going back and re-examining their collections, they found more of them. We've now identified over a dozen similar objects from all across the region. You see, this changes everything. One object, that could be a fluke, right? Some curious inventor's one-off experiment. But more than a dozen, that means this was repeatable, established knowledge. It implies there were people who knew how to make them, people who were trained, and that there was a clear purpose for them. This wasn't just an accident, it was an actual technology. So, if a system of electrical knowledge existed 2,000 years ago, that leaves us with two absolutely massive questions. Who was in control of it, and why did it completely vanish from history? I mean, think about the context here. In the ancient world, advanced knowledge, things like astronomy or metallurgy, was jealously guarded by the ruling class, the priests, the kings. An invisible force like electricity, that would have been the ultimate tool of control. To an ordinary person, a priest making metal spark or giving a little shock would have seemed like actual magic, a direct line to the gods. And the fact that this technology disappeared isn't as strange as it sounds when you look at the bigger picture. The Baghdad Battery fits right into a well-known pattern of lost ancient knowledge.
We know the Romans created a type of concrete that's more durable than our own. The Byzantines had something called Greek fire, a weapon that could burn on water. To this day, we can't figure out how to recreate them. A lot of times, this kind of specialized knowledge just wasn't written down. It was held by a very select few, which made it incredibly fragile.
And all of this points to a pretty uncomfortable truth about history. We love to think of progress as this constant upward climb, right? But the evidence suggests it's much more of a cycle. Civilizations rise, they innovate, and they concentrate that amazing knowledge in the hands of a few. And when those civilizations collapse, that fragile knowledge often collapses right along with them, forcing history to basically hit the reset button. So why does a 2,000-year-old clay pot matter to us today? Well, because the lesson of the Baghdad Battery is a direct, flashing warning sign for our own incredibly complex, technology-dependent world.
The parallels are, well, they're pretty striking. In the ancient world, power was controlled by priests and kings, and it was guarded by secrecy. Today, our most critical technologies are controlled by a handful of corporations and governments, guarded by patents and proprietary code. Once again, knowledge is concentrated in the hands of a very small few.
It really makes you wonder, if our own civilization faced some kind of major collapse, what would future archaeologists find? They'd find smartphones they couldn't turn on, data centers with no power, just fragments of a world they could never truly understand. The battery is the stark reminder that having incredible technology isn't enough to guarantee your survival. So in the end, we're left with this final, kind of haunting question. Was the Baghdad Battery just an early, forgotten branch of science, or does it represent a type of knowledge, a way of seeing the world that we've completely lost? It's a powerful reminder that there are still currents flowing from the past that we have yet to rediscover.